Obviously, our latest survey out, a little bit worrying, it's got to be said. Average Brit consuming 83% more sugar than the UK recommended allowance. This is quite scary, Helen.
It is, absolutely. It's shocking, isn't it? 83%. So what we see is that in men, the average daily free sugar intake is 55 grams, which is above the recommendation of 30 grams a day. For women, it's slightly less at 44 grams a day. But as you say, you know, with men, they're consuming over 83% above the recommendation, which is quite scary. So when we talk about free sugars, what we're really talking about is the sugar that's added to food. So things like the sugar that you'll find in breakfast cereals, sweets, cakes, biscuits, chocolate, that sort of thing, and drinks are quite a culprit for it. And also some naturally occurring sugars like honey and syrups. We don't regard free sugars as being the sugars that are in fruit and vegetables or milk and dairy products, just because they come with a lot of really good nutrients and the fibre as well. So it's the free sugars that we really want to focus on. And, you know, as the statistics are showing us, the UK population, we really need to focus on bringing those sugar intakes down. So I work for, sorry,
just taking you up there, Helen, on the honey thing, because I've always kind of I've taken honey for two reasons, quite a lot actually. One, because I try and take local honey because of my hay fever during the summer months. That's my excuse. And secondly, I love the flavour anyway, and it kind of is a nice, sugary sweet taste. But that's not quite so good. Then you're saying that's not as good as the natural fruit stuff.
Well, I'm very sorry to tell you, John, but no. So honey is just sugar, and it's sweeter, sort of gram for gram, than sugar. So you might find that you can use a little bit less sugar than honey than you might do with sugar, but it is still sugar. So whether you're having white sugar, brown sugar, syrups, honey, it is all just sugar, and it's adding to your energy intake as well. So too much sugar in the diet can lead to weight gain. So being overweight or obese is a risk factor for lots of different diseases, including coronary heart disease. So in my role at Heart Research UK, we're very much focused on the prevention of coronary heart disease. Obesity and overweight can lead to having high blood pressure, higher cholesterol, and these are two things that often people are unaware of. You don't have symptoms. So, there's lots of people walking around unaware that they've got high blood pressure or high cholesterol. So my recommendation would be to make sure that you get those tested. So particularly regular tests for blood pressure. And that's something that we're going to be doing today. So we've kicked off Heart Month with pairing up with MyFitnessPal, and we've got an event in central London where we're going to be running a nutrition clinic. We've also got sculptures of hearts that are fully made out of sugar, and one of them represents what the average intake should be over a year, and then the other one, the size is proportionate to what the average intake actually is in men in the UK. So there's quite a stark difference, and seeing it visually, it's quite shocking that to see just how much sugar we are over consuming over a year.
And, if someone's, listening to this right now, Helen, and they've got, a few concerns because of maybe their diet, for example, that they have at the moment, like lots of honey in my case, obviously getting along and getting these tests done, how can we go about doing that?
Yeah, so you can ask your GP for blood pressure and cholesterol checks. You can also go to the pharmacy. Blood pressure machines are fairly reasonably priced, so a lot of people do have their own blood pressure monitors at home. As a charity, Heart Research UK, we do carry out blood pressure checks. We go out in the community, go out in the workplace as well, and carry out health checks on people. So that's a really good way of doing it. There are apps that you can link. If you've got a sort of Bluetooth blood pressure device, you can log it in and connect with apps. MyFitnessPal app is a really good way of tracking your dietary intake and physical activity as well. So, highly recommend sort of keeping an eye on what your sugar intake and other nutrient intake is. Because unless you have that awareness of what your diet looks like and whether you're exceeding the sugar intake or other nutrients, then, you don't know that you actually need to do something about it, and you may be at risk. And it might be that, You may have high blood pressure. By reducing your weight, you can then help to bring your blood pressure down and making other lifestyle changes. So the key lifestyle factors that we focus on are diet and your weight, but also smoking, physical activity, and alcohol consumption as well. So they can all contribute towards your risk of coronary heart disease. So focusing on all of those areas is really important.
And obviously, I mean, the key for this month is very much to raise that awareness, Helen, and in particular, with regards to, I suppose a little bit of re-education, because it's quite, I mean, I've already proven it, haven't I, really, in many ways with my honey theory, but there's so much we don't know about the foods that are good and are bad. And I guess this is all part of this campaign.
It is, absolutely, and it is extremely difficult for people to sort of disentangle. There are lots of confusing messages about sugar and about other nutrients out there, and disentangling that and looking at, what should I actually be eating? Honey's often promoted as a health food, and it's not. It's still sugar. We're not saying remove completely. If you enjoy having a little bit of honey on, however you take it, then, we're not saying that stop doing that completely, but it's about moderation. So there's often hidden sugars in foods as well that people don't think of. So things like sugary drinks. So, we've got the sugar tax that's sort of brought down the sugar content in some drinks, but there are lots of drinks where sugar's hidden. So things like buying a hot drink, a latte that might have syrups in, the sugar content can be really high. A can of cola's got 35 grams of sugar, which is above the recommended amount. By switching that to something like a low sugar squash, then, that's got very minimal, less than 1 gram of sugar. So it's, over the course of a year, by making that swap, you can drastically reduce your sugar intake. But yeah, the hidden sugars are a real problem. And by looking at the food labels, use the traffic light label. If you can see that for sugar, it's showing as red on the front of the pack, see if there's a similar product that you can pick instead that isn't red on the traffic light system, and use the MyFitnessPal app. So you can scan the food label, the barcode on the food label, and it'll bring up the food products on the MyFitnessPal app. They've got 18 million products or more on their app, so pretty much everything's covered there, and you can just have a look very quickly. What's this contributing towards my sugar intake if I include this in my diet?
Yeah, that's a really quick way to find out about the foods, isn't it? With that app, that sounds like right up my street, especially as my eyesight is failing as I get older. You touched on it a short while ago, Helen, about, moderation, because one of the things running through my head, and I'm guessing you probably answered this in a way, but, quite often we are looking for that sort of like that sugar intake, aren't we, to boost energy from time to time, especially after sport and stuff like that. I suppose you're saying don't do that, per se completely, but just in moderation. Is that really like the advice?
That absolutely, that sums it up quite nicely. So, if you're having, sugar to try and give you energy, you often will then face a bit of a slump after you've had the sugar, as your blood sugar levels return. The advice really would be to choose whole grain carbohydrates. So carbohydrates made up of sugar and fibres. By picking the whole grain versions, you're getting that fibre in there, which is really good for your heart health, but also it will give you a sort of a lower release of the sugar that we need for energy. So having those sugary products isn't the answer. If you need to, if you feel you need to pick up your energy, it might be that you need a rest, more sleep if you're feeling particularly sluggish. But yeah, by having whole grain foods rather than the sort of more refined carbohydrates and sugary products is definitely a lot better, and you'll feel better for it.
Excellent. Some great advice in there. If someone wants to get a bit more advice and a bit of direction, Helen, wants to get tested and all the rest of it as well, where can you point them towards for all of that, websites and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, so NHS website has got lots of really, really useful information. heartresearchuk.org.uk is the charity that I work for, Heart Research UK. And we've got lots of information on our website, some healthy recipes, healthy tips for helping people to live healthier lifestyles. Downloading the MyFitnessPal app, so that's free to download. And, that's a really good start in getting a better idea of what your diet looks like. But yeah, use the online resources that we've got on our website as well.
Brilliant. Helen, thank you so much for your time. Some really good advice there and some good information too. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.